What you think Kevin Stefanski gonna do with this quarterback situation?
He better figure it out. You got Michael Penix, who is almost a second coming of Shedeur, the left-hand version. You seen what you did with Shedeur, and it was unacceptable. Who has gotten better from the player's perspective with Kevin Stefanski? The Atlanta Falcons, they're a young team. You got Michael Penix as your quarterback, Drake London as your receiver, Kyle Pitts. Your team is young.
Arthur Blank is heated right now. Music, the Atlanta Falcons owner and chairman, is reportedly furious behind closed doors, and insiders say the tension inside that building is thick enough to cut with a knife. This is not a calm disagreement. This is a power clash brewing at the top. The man Blank trusted to guide this franchise into the future. Kevin Stefanski is already stirring the pot, and this time, it has nothing to do with play calling or offensive schemes. Stefanski is reportedly pressing the front office to bring in a brand new quarterback, not to develop depth, not to create healthy competition, but to sideline their own guy, Michael Penix Jr., before he even gets a real shot to prove himself. And Blank is not feeling that move at all. Let's really paint this picture. The Atlanta Falcons are one of the most exciting young squads building momentum right now. The roster, music, is stacked with young black talent making serious noise on the field. These players are hungry, fearless, and fully locked music in. They reflect the heartbeat of Atlanta, one of the most culturally influential black cities in America. The energy feels different. The vibe feels real. And right in the middle of it all is Michael Penix Jr. The young quarterback has already flashed real star power, big arm, calm presence, game-changing upside. He represents hope and long-term vision. The plan looked solid. The rebuild had direction. Then suddenly, Stefanski starts making bold demands that nobody saw coming. Now, reports are surfacing that Stefanski wants the team to bring in a new quarterback for the upcoming season. Music not to mentor Penix, not to challenge him, but to pivot away from the path the franchise just committed to. That is a major shift. And here's where it gets even more intense. The details about what type of quarterback Stefanski is pushing for are raising eyebrows inside league circles. This is no small disagreement. This is philosophy versus loyalty, vision versus impatience. And when ownership and coaching are not aligned, things can spiral fast. Music, this situation has people inside and outside the organization raising serious eyebrows. The Falcons front office has reportedly held multiple sit-downs to hash this out. Music, the options are blunt and uncomfortable. Either move on from Kevin Stefanski or convince him to fully commit to developing Michael Penix Jr. and let the young quarterback grow into music, the role. Right now, no final call has been made. But make no mistake, music, the tension in that building is thick. You can feel it. And nobody is pretending it's business as usual. Here's what really has Falcons leadership fired up.
Players, from what we've seen, don't get better with Kevin Stefanski. And I'm looking at the personnel of the Atlanta Falcons. They're a young team. You got Michael Penix as your quarterback, Drake London as your receiver, Kyle Pitts,
Bijan.
Like, that's a very young team. Like, your team is young. It's like you're inheriting something that's already great and ready to rock and roll.
They did not bring Stefanski in to tear down a vision that was already in motion. They hired him to elevate it. The expectation was simple. Take this young, explosive roster and mold it into a real contender. Be the architect. Bait a steady hand. Be the leader who sharpens what is already there. Instead, what they're seeing is a coach who appears more focused on bringing in outside pieces to override the very core they've been building. That is not a small tweak. That is a full direction shift. Inside the building, people are confused. Why walk into a situation loaded with young talent and immediately push to reset the most important position? It doesn't sit right with a lot of folks. And then there's Cam Newton. Cam did not stay quiet about any of this. When the Falcons announced Stefanski's hiring, Cam immediately questioned the move. He pointed to Stefanski's time in Cleveland, especially how things played out around Shedeur Sanders, and asked how ownership looked at that track record and said, "This is our guy." Music, Cam was direct. He said Stefanski denied Shedeur Sanders a real opportunity, not because of ability, not because of preparation, but because of differences in background and identity. Cam argued that Shedeur represents authentic Black culture, confidence, music, and a certain presence. And in his view, Coaches like Stefanski struggle to fully embrace that energy. Now, think about the optics. A coach coming from Cleveland, stepping into Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta is a city with deep Black culture, influence, and music pride. The spotlight is brighter here. The expectations hit different, and every move, especially at quarterback, is going to be examined under a microscope. Atlanta is a city where the fan base is predominantly Black, where the community lives and breathes this team every single Sunday. The culture is not just background noise. It is the identity of the franchise. So when people talk about a possible disconnect at the top, it hits different. It feels louder. It feels personal. Cam Newton made sure nobody missed that point. And now those early concerns are starting to look very real and very documented. Cam asked a question that has been bouncing all over social media since Kevin Stefanski was hired. If Stefanski handled Shedeur Sanders poorly in Cleveland, what makes anyone so confident things will? That is not a small accusation. That is a serious pattern being called out. This is not about one bad press conference or on a tough game decision. The criticism centers on whether young Black quarterbacks from strong cultural backgrounds are truly being supported the way they should be. When you go back and really examine what happened in Cleveland with Shedeur, strip away the headlines and look at the development timeline, the debate becomes intense. Cam did not sugarcoat his view. He said people would try to spin the story and make Shedeur look like the issue. He pushed back hard against that idea. In his opinion, the leadership and development structure deserved more scrutiny than the player himself. Now, fast forward to Atlanta. The same concerns are creeping into a new building, a new young Black quarterback, a new long-term vision potentially hanging in the balance. The conversation is no longer whispers. People are connecting dots in real time. And what Cam is really pressing is bigger than just Shedeur Sanders' music or Michael Penix Jr. His argument is about the broader picture. What happens when a coach is handed a locker room full of young Black talent and the music alignment does not feel right? The Falcons do not just have one promising quarterback. They have a roster stacked with young standouts, players with serious upside who need belief, structure, and steady development. That kind of environment requires trust at the top. So when Stefanski steps into that role, fans are asking a blunt question. What is the track record with developing young quarterbacks? What evidence is there that this partnership will thrive? Cam's criticism focuses on whether Stefanski has consistently elevated young players placed in his system. The Shedeur Sanders chapter has become a central talking point in that debate. For many critics, it represents a case study about opportunity, patience, and perception. Around the league, when quarterbacks struggle early, organizations often double down with support, add protection, and build confidence. That standard is what fans expect across the board. Now in Atlanta, the spotlight is bright. The expectations are heavy, and every move at quarterback will be analyzed from every angle. This is about trust, development, and whether leadership and culture are truly aligned inside that building. When a young Black quarterback from a strong cultural background hits a rough stretch, the narrative shifts fast. Instead of asking what support he needs, people start asking if he is the problem. That pattern is exactly what has folks in Atlanta on edge right now. The leash feels shorter, the patience feels thinner, and the criticism gets louder way quicker than it should. Arthur Blank signed off on bringing Kevin Stefanski in with a clear vision. This was not random. Blank has built this roster piece by piece, music, with intention and long-term strategy. He has invested in young talent. He has trusted the scouting department. He has watched these players grind, improve, and build chemistry. He sees the upside. He sees what Michael Penix Jr. can become. And now, according to reports, he is sitting in meetings frustrated, trying to understand how the coach he trusted is already pushing to redirect the entire plan before it even breathes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this man was in Cleveland for about 6 years, had 13 different quarterbacks. One of them was Baker Mayfield. Another was Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, various others. Nothing could work.
Blank did not build this team just to hand control to someone who is unsure about the quarterback already in that locker room. He built this squad to win with the talent that is already there. That was the blueprint from day one. Develop, elevate, compete, grow together, not panic, not scrap the foundation, not pull the plug before the engine even warms up inside that building. This is more than a football disagreement. This is philosophy clashing with philosophy. Ownership believes in steady development. Coaching appears to be leaning toward immediate change. Music, and when those two sides are not aligned, cracks start to show fast. Players notice. Agents notice. The locker room energy shifts, even if nobody says it out loud. So now, music. The big question is simple but heavy. What happens next? Does blank step in and make it crystal clear that Michael Penix Jr. is the franchise quarterback? No debate, no side conversations, no wiggle room. Does he draw a line and say, this is the direction, period? Or does the organization quietly start evaluating whether this partnership with Stefanski is already strained beyond repair? Because once trust, music, starts to wobble, it is hard to steady it again. If ownership feels like the vision is being ignored, that tension does not just disappear. It builds. It lingers in meetings. It shows up in decision and eventually it forces a choice. There is also the human side of this. Michael Penix Jr. is not just a name on a depth chart. He is a young quarterback trying to establish himself in the league. Confidence matters, stability, music matters, belief from leadership matters. If he feels the organization is split on him, that uncertainty can creep into performance, and that is how development gets disrupted before it truly begins. Cam Newton warned Atlanta early. He studied what happened in Cleveland. He examined Stefanski's track record and publicly questioned whether this pairing made sense. He was direct. He was loud. He did not tiptoe around his opinions. Some people, music, said Cam was overreacting. Others said he was stirring drama. But now, watching this tension surface so quickly, it is harder to dismiss what he said. Cam's broader point was about alignment and cultural understanding. Atlanta is not just another NFL city. Music, it carries history. It carries pride. The fan base connects deeply with the identity of its players. When leadership appears disconnected from that identity, people feel it immediately. And when questions about quarterback support music start to surface, the volume gets turned all the way up. Michael Penix Jr. deserves real belief from the top down. The Falcons deserve a unified vision, not internal to-go-for. And this city deserves leadership that is fully locked in with the talent wearing that jersey every Sunday. Because when ownership and coaching are on the same page, the energy flows straight to the field. Arthur Blank understands what music is at stake. The front office understands the pressure, and the rest of the league is watching closely to see whether Atlanta doubles down on its young quarterback or pivots into something completely different. This is not just about one position. It is about direction. It is about trust. It is about whether the Falcons stay committed to the future they started building or allow internal conflict to rewrite the script before it is.